What happens when Hollywood's most unpredictable actor meets daytime television's most outspoken host? You're about to witness one of the most explosive confrontations in talk show history. Before we dive into this incredible story, make sure to hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments what you think really set Nicolas Cage off. Trust me, you won't believe how this unfolds. The studio lights were blazing as Nicolas Cage settled into his chair on The View, promoting his latest film. What started as a routine celebrity interview was about to become television gold. Whoopi Goldberg, never one to shy away from controversy, had clearly done her homework. So, Nicolas, Whoopi began, leaning forward with that knowing smile. You've had quite the career. Some might say it's been a roller coaster of brilliant performances and, well, let's call them interesting choices. Cage's eyes narrowed slightly. I prefer to think of it as fearless artistic exploration, Whoopi. Not everyone has the courage to take risks. Fearless? Joy Behar chimed in from across the table. Some of your recent films went straight to video. That's not fearless. That's financial necessity. The audience murmured, sensing tension building. Cage's jaw tightened, but he maintained his composure. Every artist goes through different phases. I've never compromised my artistic integrity for commercial success. Whoopi's eyebrows shot up. Never really, because I seem to remember Ghost Rider 2 and that vampire movie. And wasn't there something about a Wicker Man remake? Those were artistic choices, Cage replied, his voice rising slightly. Just because the masses don't understand nuanced performance doesn't mean it lacks value. Sarah Haynes tried to lighten the mood. Nicolas, your fans love your passion. What drives that intensity we see on screen? But Cage wasn't ready to move on. He turned back to Whoopi. You know what I find interesting? Everyone's quick to criticize, but how many Academy Awards do your critics have? Because I have one. The audience went quiet. Whoopi's expression hardened. Oh, we're playing that game now, bringing up awards to shut down conversation. I'm simply stating facts, Cage shot back. I've been in this business for decades, working with the greatest directors of our time, Coppola, Kaufman, the Coen brothers. I don't need to justify my choices to anyone. Sunny Hen leaned in. But Nicolas, surely you can understand why some people question movies like Season of the Witch or Left Behind. Cage stood up abruptly, his chair rolling backward. This is exactly the problem with this industry. Everyone wants to put artists in boxes. You want predictable, safe, boring performances? Go watch someone else. Whoopi wasn't backing down. Sit down, Nicolas. We're having a conversation here, not a temper tantrum. Temper tantrum? Cage's voice cracked with indignation. I'm defending my life's work against people who wouldn't know genuine artistry if it slapped them in the face. The other co-hosts exchanged glances as the temperature in the studio rose. Alyssa Farah Griffin tried to mediate. Maybe we should talk about your new film, The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. But Cage was locked onto Whoopi now. You want to talk about unbearable weight? Try carrying the burden of being misunderstood by every critic and talk show host who thinks they know better than the artist himself. Whoopi leaned back in her chair, arms crossed. Oh, please. You're not some misunderstood genius, Nicolas. You're an actor who made some questionable career choices, and now you're getting defensive about it. Questionable? Cage's voice reached a new octave. I've explored every facet of human emotion on screen. I've pushed boundaries, taken risks, created characters that will live forever. What have you done lately besides sit behind this desk and tear down people who actually create? The audience gasped. The other co-hosts sat frozen, unsure whether to jump in or let this play out. Whoopi's eyes flashed with anger. Excuse me, she said slowly, dangerously. What have I done? I've won every major award in entertainment. I've broken barriers, opened doors, and earned my place at this table. Don't you dare question my credentials? Cage laughed bitterly. Credentials? You're questioning mine while yours are what? Hosting a daytime talk show and making jokes about movies you clearly don't understand. I understand movies just fine. Whoopi fired back. I understand when an actor is so desperate for work that he'll take any paycheck that comes his way, no matter how ridiculous the script. The studio fell silent except for the hum of cameras still rolling. Cage's face went through a series of expressions from shock to hurt to pure rage. When he spoke again, his voice was low and controlled, which somehow made it more threatening. You have no idea what you're talking about. You have no idea what you're talking about, Cage repeated, his voice carrying a dangerous edge that made everyone in the studio shift uncomfortably. You sit here in your comfortable chair, passing judgment on artists who put their souls on the line every single day. Whoopi wasn't intimidated. Put their souls on the line. Nicolas, you made a movie where you punched a woman while wearing a bear suit. Where exactly was your soul in that moment? The audience couldn't help but laugh, which only fueled Cage's fury. You're reducing complex performances to cheap punchlines. The Wicker Man was a commentary on masculinity and religious fanaticism. But of course, you'd miss the deeper meaning. Deeper meaning? Joy Behar jumped back in. The only thing deep about that movie was the hole it dug in your career. Cage whipped around to face her. My career? I've made over 100 films. I've worked consistently for 4 decades. How many actors can say that? Quality over quantity, Nicolas, Sunny host interjected. Maybe fewer films with more thought behind them would serve you better. Thought Cage's voice was becoming more animated. His famous intensity building. Every role I take is carefully considered. I bring method acting techniques that most actors don't even understand. I create backstories. I live these characters. Whoopi rolled her eyes. Living the character doesn't excuse bad movies, Nicolas. At some point, you have to take responsibility for your choices. Responsibility. Cage was pacing now, unable to stay seated. I take full responsibility for pushing cinema forward while everyone else plays it safe. I'm not afraid to fail spectacularly in service of art. Well, you've certainly succeeded at the spectacular failure part, Whoopi shot back with a smirk. The other co-hosts looked mortified. Sarah Haynes attempted damage control. I think what Nicolas is trying to say is that he values artistic risk-taking. But Cage was beyond diplomatic rescue. No, Sarah. What I'm saying is that this entire panel represents everything wrong with entertainment criticism today. Superficial analysis, cheap shots, and zero understanding of the creative process. Alyssa tried a different approach. Nicolas, your fans appreciate your dedication to your craft. Can you tell us about your preparation process? Why? Cage snapped. So Whoopi can mock that too. So she can turn my artistic methods into another punchline for her audience. Whoopi had heard enough. You know what, Nicolas? Nobody's making you sit here. If you don't like the questions, there's the door. Oh, now you're trying to kick me off your show. Cage's voice rose to a near shout. Because I won't sit here quietly while you disrespect my life's work. I'm not disrespecting anything, Whoopi countered. I'm having an honest conversation about your career. If you can't handle that, maybe you're not ready for primetime interviews. The insult hit its mark. Cage's face flushed red. Not ready for primetime? I was making award-winning films before this show existed. I've been interviewed by every major journalist in the world, and none of them have ever been this unprofessional. Unprofessional? Whoopi's voice rose to match his. You're the one having a meltdown on live television because someone dared to ask you real questions instead of lobbing softballs. Real questions? You mean personal attacks disguised as journalism? Joy decided to pile on. Nicolas, if you can't take criticism, maybe acting isn't for you. Cage turned on her with fury. Criticism? This isn't criticism. This is character assassination. There's a difference between analyzing performance and mocking someone's entire career for cheap laughs. Nobody's mocking you, Sunny said, though her tone suggested otherwise. We're having a discussion about your filmography. Discussion? Cage laughed harshly. This is an ambush. You brought me here under false pretenses to humiliate me for your ratings. Whoopi stood up, matching his energy. Nobody's humiliating you, Nicolas. You're doing that all by yourself with this ridiculous tantrum. Tantrum? Cage's voice cracked. This is what artistic passion looks like. This is what caring about your work means. But I wouldn't expect you to understand that. Artistic passion? Whoopi scoffed. This is what ego looks like when it can't handle reality. The studio audience was completely silent now, watching this train wreck unfold in real time. The other co-hosts sat frozen, unsure whether to intervene or let these two titans of entertainment destroy each other on live television. Cage pointed an accusatory finger at Whoopi. You know what your problem is? You've forgotten what it means to create. You've been sitting behind desks for so long that you've lost touch with the artistic struggle. My problem? Whoopi's voice was deadly calm. Now, I'm dealing with entitled actors who think their feelings matter more than honest conversation. Entitled. Cage's voice hit a register that made dogs bark 3 blocks away. I've earned every opportunity I've gotten through talent and hard work. I don't hide behind committees and groupthink. The tension in the studio was suffocating. Camera operators zoomed in, sensing television history in the making. Whoopi stepped closer to Cage, their confrontation reaching its peak intensity. Whoopi stepped closer to Cage, their confrontation reaching its peak intensity. The studio air was electric with tension as these two forces collided heat-in. You want to talk about hiding? Whoopi's voice was ice cold. You're the one who's been hiding behind eccentric performances instead of admitting when you've made bad movies. At least I own my mistakes. Cage's laugh was sharp and bitter. Your mistakes, lady, you are a mistake. This whole show is a mistake. Sitting here pretending to be journalists while you're nothing but gossips with a platform. The audience gasped audibly. Joy Behar's mouth fell open. Sarah Haynes looked like she wanted to disappear under the table, but Whoopi didn't flinch. Gossips? Whoopi's voice was dangerously quiet. We're having real conversations about real issues. Something you clearly can't handle. Real conversations. Cage threw his hands up dramatically. You ambushed me with prepared attacks and call it journalism. This is tabloid garbage disguised as legitimate television. Sunny Holston tried desperately to salvage the situation. Nicolas, maybe we should take a commercial break and regroup. No. Cage snapped, never taking his eyes off Whoopi. I want everyone to see what passes for professional discourse on this show. I want them to witness how you treat guests who don't bow down to your opinions. Whoopi crossed her arms. Professional discourse? You're the one screaming and pointing fingers because someone dared to question your artistic choices. Question my choices? Cage's voice was reaching legendary levels of intensity. You've done nothing but mock and belittle everything I've accomplished. That's not questioning. That's bullying. Bullying? Whoopi laughed harshly. You're a grown man having a public meltdown because your feelings got hurt. If that's not the definition of Hollywood entitlement, I don't know what is. The other co-hosts watched in horror as their show descended into complete chaos. Alyssa Farah Griffin made one last attempt at peace. Can we please just take a step back here? But Cage was beyond reason now. You know what the real tragedy is? This show used to mean something. Barbara Walters built something respectable, and you've turned it into a circus. That was the final straw. Whoopi's composure cracked completely. Don't you dare bring Barbara into this. Don't you dare lecture me about what this show means when you can't even handle basic interview questions. Basic questions. Cage was practically vibrating with rage. You spent 20 minutes tearing apart my career for entertainment. That's not journalism. That's sadism. And you spent 20 minutes proving every critic right about your inability to handle reality. Whoopi fired back. Maybe if you spent less time defending bad movies and more time choosing better scripts, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Cage's face went through a series of expressions that would have made his most over-the-top movie performances look subtle. When he spoke again, his voice was deadly calm, which was somehow more terrifying than his shouting. You have no right to judge my art. I have every right. Whoopi shot back. I'm a paying customer just like everyone else. When you put your work out there, you open it up to criticism. That's how this business works. Criticism? Yes. Character assassination? No. Cage's voice was building again. There's a difference between analyzing performance and destroying someone's reputation for ratings. Joy couldn't resist jumping back in. Nicolas, your reputation is based on your work. If you don't like what people are saying, maybe change the work. Cage spun toward her with wild eyes. Change the work. Compromise my artistic vision to satisfy people who wouldn't recognize innovation if it bit them. Innovation? Whoopi scoffed. Is that what you call it when you scream at bees? The audience erupted in nervous laughter, which sent Cage over the edge completely. That's it. I'm done. This is exactly the kind of superficial analysis that's destroying serious film criticism. Then leave, Whoopi said simply. Nobody's forcing you to stay. Oh, I'll leave, Cage replied, his voice shaking with fury. But first, let me tell your audience something about real artistry. It's about taking risks, pushing boundaries, refusing to play it safe. It's about having the courage to fail in pursuit of something greater. Spare us the acting class lecture, Whoopi interrupted. We get it. You're a serious artist. The problem is your serious art often looks like unintentional comedy. That was the breaking point. Cage's face turned a shade of red that shouldn't exist in nature. You wouldn't know real artistry if it performed Shakespeare directly into your face. And you wouldn't know a good script if it came with a team of agents begging you to read it. Whoopi shot back. The studio fell into stunned silence. Even the camera operators seemed frozen by the sheer intensity of the confrontation. Cage stood there for a moment, breathing heavily, looking around at the faces of everyone watching him. Finally, he pulled off his microphone and threw it down on the table. This has been the most unprofessional interview experience of my entire career, and that includes the time a director made me eat a live cockroach. He started walking toward the exit, but turned back for one final shot. Enjoy your ratings boost. I hope destroying guest experiences for entertainment value was worth it. Nicolas, Whoopi called after him, her voice still carrying authority. This isn't how professional interviews end. Cage stopped at the edge of the set and turned back one last time. Professional? There's nothing professional about this circus. You've turned legitimate television into a gladiator arena, and I refuse to be your entertainment. With that, he walked off the set, leaving behind a stunned studio audience and a panel of co-hosts trying to process what had just happened. Whoopi sat back down, composed herself, and looked directly into the camera. "Well," she said with remarkable calm, "I guess that's one way to promote a movie." And there you have it. One of the most explosive confrontations in talk show history. What do you think pushed Nicolas Cage over the edge? Was it Whoopi's direct approach or something deeper? Let me know in the comments below, and make sure to subscribe for more incredible behind-the-scenes stories from Hollywood's wildest moments.